Updates. Updates with Mr. Warford. Updates with Mr. Warford. Updates with Mr. Warford. Updates with Mr. Warford.
What's up? Welcome to another episode of Updates with Mr. Warford. This is for my world history people. We're talking about the Renaissance, specifically something called Humanism. Okay, so our learning target. I can describe humanism and its importance to events of the Renaissance. And today, you're going to watch this video. Then with any extra time you have with the rest of our class time, you are going to work on vocabulary or your study guide. Remember, at the beginning of this unit, you received vocab, a study guide, and major due dates. So you know when the vocab and study guide are due based off of the things that I submitted into Google Classroom for you to look at. So all through this unit, you should be working on vocab and your study guide in preparation for turning it in at the end of the unit. Tomorrow, we're going to keep talking about humanism, specifically humanist writers. But today, we're going to learn what the heck is humanism. So a review, the Renaissance, okay? It was a time of great creativity and great change, political, social, economic, and cultural that happened after the Middle Ages, especially in Italy. It happened from the 1300s to the 1500s-ish. The reason that I say ish is because it's hard to pinpoint exactly the day, month, or year that some phenomenon in world history quit happening, because a lot of times historical events intermingle. So a lot of times you're going to hear us just kind of talk about general time frames, not specific like days or specific months or years. It's going to be like around this time-ish this happened. Something to keep in mind. Don't get twisted with all these different eras of history, okay? Remember, the fall of Rome happened, so one of the biggest empires in world history falls. We enter into something called the Middle Ages in Europe, and then that leads to the Renaissance, okay? During the Middle Ages, remember, it's a shift towards more rural, meaning farming or agrarian society. The feudal system takes hold, that system of the church is at the top, then you have kings, queens, knights, peasants, lords, all those people, and there's kind of like a pecking order of who has power in society. So you have the feudal system, it's more agrarian, and during the Middle Ages, the church, the Catholic Church, becomes a super important part of society. Life kind of becomes learning about God, learning how to please God through participating in activities of the Catholic Church, and then working your butt off. That's pretty much your life. Then when we get to the Renaissance, people start to think, hey, maybe these guys over here during ancient Rome and also ancient Greece, maybe they had some good ideas. All right, so we have a changing worldview. An interest in classical learning from Greece and Rome began at the end of the Middle Ages. There's a shift, and it's people start seeing how everything in life is dictated by religion during the Middle Ages in Europe. And they say maybe there's some room to learn about the human experience and just experience what it means to be a person. That'd be cool too. And then the Renaissance sparks a spirit of adventure and discovery. So humanism, this is the definition of humanism. So feel free to add this into your vocab list. It's a cultural movement which turned away from scholasticism, that's a fancy way of saying religion and tradition, and revived interest in ancient Greek and Roman thought. So again, we have this idea of human experience over religion. It's not that they hated religion or that they got rid of religion. It's just that they thought that there's something more to learning about life than just pleasing God. There's also a lot to be learned from the human experience. Individualism, this is a big one. Emphasize the worth and dignity of the individual. So my thoughts, my feelings, my ideas are also important. People wanted to improve themselves by studying the past, and then they shifted away from traditional education that was very religion-focused. And this idea of self-improvement. So I can improve myself, and by improving myself, I can then improve society. So think of this shift back to ancient Greek and Roman thought as like champ brand or champion brand. Here's the thing. I'm going to take you down a little history lesson of my own, a little go down memory lane. Imagine me as a little kid, Mr. Warford as a little kid. Didn't have a beard, okay? But in the early 90s, when I'm a kid, champ brand or champion brand is the stuff. If you want to wear athletic gear, you're wearing champion brand. Their hoodies were a big deal. Now everybody wears hoodies. Hoodies back then were exploding, and people were like, I need the champ hoodie, okay? Then as time goes by, just like any kind of different fashion, popularity or fads or whatever you want to call them, by the early 2000s, champ not so popular, okay? Champ is the thing that you can buy at pretty much any store you see. It's really cheap. Champ doesn't become the thing that it's like the fit that you wear on the first day of school, and people are like, dang, he's got the champ hoodie. Champ hoodies become the thing that your dad wears when he mows the lawn. Not a bad thing, but just not something that people are like, I'm swagged out, I have the champ hoodie, right? Then it increases in popularity again to where now my students are wearing champ gear and they think it's the coolest thing ever. Whereas when I was a teenager, it was not cool, okay? So you see how ideas and fads and people's interest in things comes around over time. Humanism is the same way, okay? Humanism is the champ hoodie. Think of humanism as the champ hoodie. Those old ideas of ancient Greece and Rome, so their philosophy, their art, their ideas about politics, that the people in Europe got away from in the Middle Ages, during the Renaissance, they bring them back and they say, maybe they had something good going on there. Maybe they had some good ideas. Let's look at them, tweak them, make them our own, and maybe we could learn something new. So ancient Greek and Roman ideas and humanism in general, just like the champion hoodie. Okay, so again, why Italy? We've already covered this, but just so you remember. Why was Italy a hotbed for the Renaissance? If you look at its location, it's surrounded by water. So all kinds of ships can come in bringing goods from different parts of the world. And with those goods, they can also bring ideas. They can bring, books. They can bring all kinds of different things that people can learn from. And merchants, people that buy and sell things through trade, they're going to get very rich. Another reason that a hotbed of the Renaissance was Italy is because they were not as involved in the feudal system that took over in the rest of Europe. You remember the feudal system? You had the church, you had kings, queens, lords, nobles, then you had knights, then you had the peasants that were working the fields, right? Italy, not as agrarian or not as rural as the rest of Europe, because remember, Rome, Italy was where the Roman Empire, that was like where it was concentrated. That was like its capital, its hub, right? So when you think of like the Colosseum of Rome and these big Roman architecture, giant stone buildings, that was Rome. So Italy was not as rural, so the feudal system didn't take hold as much. And another reason was because that was where the Roman Empire was located, or a central part of the Roman Empire was located, their art, writing, and architecture was all around. So Renaissance thinkers could see it everywhere. Education. So we see a shift in education when humanism takes hold. So back in the day during the Middle Ages, religious leaders were the only people that educated children. Okay, wealthy people got to educate their children, but it was all based through the Bible. It was all based through the Catholic Church. That's what education was, learning how to read the Bible and apply it. Humanists think the Bible's awesome, but why can't we learn more about other topics and learn about the human experience more? So they start hiring tutors to teach kids history, philosophy, grammar, logic, poetry, math, astronomy, music, all these different things. But one thing to keep in mind, this was not everybody, because public schools didn't exist at the time. You had to be wealthy, And more often than not, you were a man. Women did not receive the same education that men did during this time. But this idea of the well-rounded citizen, the person that could learn different topics, this is where we get the idea of the Renaissance man or the Renaissance woman, somebody that's good at all kinds of different facets of and have different skills. That's where this comes from, the Renaissance. So they follow the Greek ideal of humanist they follow the Greek ideal. Humanists, by following the Greek ideal, stress things like physical education, dancing, javelin throwing, and archery. I wouldn't trust any of y'all with a javelin, by the way. They encouraged physical activity like running, wrestling, hunting, swimming. The goal of humanist education was to create complete citizens, okay? And you may be thinking to yourself, hey, we learn all kinds of different topics in school. A lot of modern school is based off of these Renaissance humanist ideas. So the idea of learning different things to become well-rounded, that's something you see in public school now. That's something you see in colleges. When I went to college to become a social studies teacher, I still had to learn math, science. I still had to take a physical education class. That's because schools, the goal, the idea is to make well-rounded citizens. That comes from the Renaissance. And then you're going to see a change in writing, okay? Sonnets, short poems that expressed personal feelings. So not just feelings about God, not just stuff about God, but about the human experience, ideas, thoughts, emotions. Autobiographies, citizenship manuals, so how to become a better citizen of your country. Political commentaries, so how can the government do better? Stuff like The Prince by Machiavelli that you're going to look at in the next couple of days. So literature changes as well. So make sure you know what humanism is, and make sure that you are ready to talk about writing in humanism tomorrow, and work on your vocab and your study guide with any extra time you have today. If you got any questions for me, shoot me an email. Peace.